Hi John, Grand of the Sunshine.
I'm today now. I'm sick during the week with the rain and all. Hello, my name is John Brennan and I'm here this morning talking to Paddy Nari. Paddy is a former resident, local historian. And Paddy, we're going to do a little tour of the Butts and we'll start out with Thomas's Square. And you told us there before that it was the middle of Kilkenny.
That's right, John.
Can you tell us more about that?
Well, we're standing in what was once, thousands of years ago, was known as the middle of Kilkenny. The reason it was called the middle is because, for one thing, all the roads, all the ancient pathways, I should say, all led here into this particular area.
Yeah.
And the other reason is that the kings held court, the kings of Ossory at the time held court here and collected their taxes and tolls. So all this area is a huge lawn laid out here, and the cathedral wouldn't have been there at that time except the king's palace.
Right.
So in time then, when St. Patrick appeared on the scene and the Catholic Church saw this was the most important site, being called the middle of Kilkenny, they decided that they'd build the Church of St. Canice, where we got the name from, Kilkenny.
And speaking of Thomas's Square, those houses now are heading for 90 years
It
old.
would be, yeah, the early 1930s they were built.
And the church, the cathedral behind that housing estate, and the tower, they go back hundreds of years.
Yeah, well, you could say the tower is the oldest of the two buildings. The tower was built in 1111, which was to celebrate the founding of the Diocese of Ossory. And the towers in those times were used as belfries. So there was a set of bells up in the very top of the tower to ring out for church services or to announce important news. And in time then, when the Vikings arrived, they were used as a place of refuge to hide the sacred vessels. And moving on to the cathedral was built, it took about 200 years to build the cathedral. It was built over stages when money was available. And it was Bishop Ledred. He was a Franciscan friar, and his tomb can still be seen in the cathedral, but he was, they say, the main builder or the influence on the building of the cathedral.
Yeah.
I'm sure you heard the story then when Alice Kittler, I know it's another story not connected with her tour of the Butts, but when she was fined for her witchcraft activities, and Petronella was burnt down in Irishtown, but Alice's son, William Outlaw, was fined a substantial sum of money, and he had to pay for the roofing of the cathedral.
All right.
So it's the belfry area of the cathedral itself that they say he had put so much lead on it that the whole roof collapsed down into the sanctuary of the cathedral.
Well, when I lived in the Butts here every Sunday morning, those bells used to be ringing out.
Yeah.
You don't hear them as much nowadays, but I did hear there about 2 weeks ago. So they're still being rung, as they say.
Yeah. I remember that, you say Sunday mornings years ago, around 12 o'clock, you'd hear them ringing out, "Why don't you go to Sunday Mass?" We used to be singing.
We'll head on down, Paddy, to the Butts Cross. And the Butts Cross, in case anyone doesn't know, it's down at the junction of Lord Edward Street, Ranges Road and Butts Green. And there's a cross there, Paddy. What's the significance of that cross, do you know? Or
Well, it could have been a marker, John, because if you look closely, you see it's at the centre point. You have the Granges Road, you have the lane with Church Lane, and you have Bonnetstown, and then over on our left you'd have the Butts Green. So it could have been a centre point, a wayside cross that were called, to mark out the different roads, more like a modern day signpost system.
We'll take a little ramble, Paddy, up Lord Edward Street. Who was Lord Edward, to let people know?
I say he was one of the patriots of 1798. He came from the noble family.
What was his surname? Was it Fitzgerald?
Fitzgerald, sorry, yeah, Lord Edward Fitzgerald.
Yeah.
And he's one of the leaders of the United Irishmen.
Yeah.
And he came from one of the great families of Leinster. In fact, they owned Carton House where the rugby.
Oh yes,
team, yeah. And they owned Leinster House, which was donated to the nation, and a fine building beside it. The museum, that was all Fitzgerald property. So I'll tell you the wealth that Lord Edward came from. Goose Hill.
The Irish name.
The Irish name was Canuck na Gwaenach.
Yeah.
Gwaenach being geese. But similarly, there was hundreds of geese used to flock and feed at the lake up there, Loch McCask.
Yeah.
And that's where the name Goose Hill.
And you were telling me one time, Paddy, there about the big wind came one time.
Oh, the big wind of 1836. It happened on Little Christmas, the night before, and the weather, something like what we have today, very mild weather, and suddenly that night, this storm erupted, sweeping in over the country from Donegal right down over the country, and all the houses, there were only cabins with straw roofs, and then up along Goose Hill, and everything with the cabins were destroyed, the roofs taken away in the wind, and there was stories of men lying across the roofs to try and save their straw, or the roofs.
They were all thatched then.
All thatched, yeah, only cabins, sure.
And I suppose, Paddy, we can't leave the Butts without talking about how the Butts got his name.
The Butts, yeah. Going back to the 1300s, out along here, the Butts Green, and stretching way up to Loch McCask, a huge forest, great oak trees and all, which were all cut down for the building of the city. So all was left in the ground was butts of trees.
Yeah.
And the Duke of Clarence, he arrived over, and he saw that people weren't attending to their practices, their archery. So he issued the orders, what were they called, the Statutes of Kilkenny. And it was a huge list of what people were forbidden to do. One of them was to have your hair to be cut very short. That's where the name the Croppy came from, the Croppy boy.
Right? Yeah.
The other one was imagined banning hurling in Kilkenny. Instead, they were to go to practice at the Butts.
Oh, yes,
that's the name. The Butts were just a little, about maybe a foot or so, 2 feet of the stump of a tree, and they were, as I said, used. And in fact, there's over in, I think it's Chester anyway, and there's another place in England where they have areas still called the Butts.
Yeah.
So it was common that there were these places to practice.
Well, to bring us up to more modern times, Paddy, you were telling me one time there was 7 shops in the Butts area.
Oh, yeah, and all doing a little business.
Yeah. Can you think of any of the names?
Well, we're down at Goose Hill. We're talking about Goose Hill. There was a man just across the road from the end of Connolly Street, Mickey Nail.
Oh, I remember him.
Yeah, in a little shop. And you'd be sent down to get maybe a half pound of butter. No fridge or anything in the shop.
No.
And you'd be right until you got home with the butter. You had a bag of oil during summertime. Milk. He sold everything in that shop. Tea, butter, sugar, sweets, and the slab toffee.
Yeah.
I think there's 2 little squares.
Cleves.
Cleves toffee, yeah.
And then, of course, you had Butlers and
Butlers,
you had
which is still there, yeah.
And you told me you had Murray's in the middle of, was it Murray's?
Ginny Murray's, yeah.
In the middle of Pearse Street.
Middle of Pearse Street, and he was doing the same type of business as Mickey Nail. And then going along Lord Edward Street again from Mickey Nail's down to, what was her name? Was she a butler? Yeah. Butler shop, the same line of business. And then you had a shop down further, which in time Dish Ryan was his name. Jim, he was called Dish. And he used to sell the Sunday newspapers.
Right.
And did the business of Sunday newspapers then. Do you remember, John, when coming out of Mass and the amount of newspapers would be?
I do, I remember.
Yeah, the Friary and the Cathedral and St. John's. But Dish did a bit of business anyway, with newspapers on a Sunday morning.
Yeah.
Then you had Reeds just at the Butts.
Reeds, yeah.
Yeah. And they were a great family. They used to look after the keys for the hall here. We used to call in there whatever nights the club was to be opened, and Nettie or Mrs. Reid would hand out the keys to us.
And of course the last remaining shop was Butler's.
Still doing well, yeah.
Yeah, that's still open.
Yeah, and of course then if you come down here where the Butts Bar was, the festival.
Oh yeah.
There was a shop there as well, Dunn's, Joe Dunn.
And there was Dunnigan's or something was on that. Do you know that Vincent de Paul shop that's been?
Yeah.
There was a shop
King's,
there.
there was a shop there, Dunnigan.
Dunnigan's, was it?
Dunnigan, yeah, Florrie Dunnigan.
Yeah.
She was a sister of Mrs. DeLucre.
Yeah. TVs, Paddy, when it came out. TVs came out in 60, 61. Had you one?
No, we were a few years before we
Yeah.
acquired a television. It was such a rarity that Father McGrath authorised the committee here in the club to hire a black and white television.
Irish TV rentals.
That's right, yeah. It was set up out in the main room.
Go ahead.
I remember the Granation in 1962 and the crowd that came in to view the Granation. And the great thing about it was that Kilkenny jockey, Frankie Short, was riding in it.
Yes.
Freed its son, and he was out in front for miles and miles and got caught in the last few 2 fences ago, I think. He was hauled in. Then the football, the All-Ireland, again you'd have a great crowd here. And then the colour came in and the pubs saw there was money to be made.
Yeah.
So that was the end of the television here in the hall.
And nowadays, if you walk around the Butts, there's a car nearly outside every door. Was there many cars in your young days in the Butts?
Well, the immediate one that comes to mind would be Paddy Phelan. He had a little timber business and they lived across the road from us. They lived in number 38 or 37. We were in number 32. And Paddy had a little timber business, as I said, going, and he had a truck, a Scott truck, and he used to bag it up with the timber slabs, we called them, all cut down to about 6 inches, and he used to sell them. He was a great man. He had a business out in the back garden, and he put the saw in it and set it up to the electricity all himself. And that was a Scott truck. The only other car I can remember in our time as youngsters was the Walls, who lived just across from the infant school. There was about 5 boys in that family, and they all had a nickname: Budgie, Rusty, Sodgy, and Shawnee was the eldest of the family, and he was a real James Bond. I think he bought the car, and the boys then, if they wanted, had to pay a few bob to Shawnee for the use of the car.
And employment, Paddy, I suppose the brewery, the Smitty's Brewery, played a big part, didn't it? It supported a lot of families around here.
They're great memories of the brewery and the numbers.
That was your first job, was it?
First and only job.
First and only job.
Yeah, 41 years.
Yeah.
But 1 o'clock or say 8 o'clock in the morning, and the crowd of men that would be walking down Dean Street.
Did they have a hooter?
We had a hooter go off at 5 to 8, and again at 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock, yeah.
But at the great numbers of men that would be walking down or cycling down Dean Street or coming around Irishtown Corner to the brewery.
Yeah.
It was all, of course, labour in those days. The barrels, the wooden barrels, are all hand-filled, and whatever onto the brewery then became mechanised and computerised in later years. But at one time in the 70s, there could have been 500 working there.
500?
Yeah.
And do you remember your first week's wages?
Oh God, I do. £2, 10 shillings. Imagine about €2.
That was good money.
Would you think so?
It was compared to what I got.
What?
Because I got half of that.
Where were you, in the bottle?
No, I work as an apprentice.
Oh, yours?
Yeah. And tell me, Paddy, before we finish, sport played a big part in the Butts, didn't it?
Sure, it was legendary.
Yeah.
Again, you'd have to go back to Father McGrath's time. He introduced the basketball. He was a chaplain in the American forces during the Korean War.
Yeah.
And after the war then, when he arrived here in St. Canice's Parish, he had seen a lot of basketball being played with the American forces.
Yeah.
So he got the committee going here, and we had great teams. You had the Thomas Square and the Dynamos. Robert Emmett's became very, very popular, and was played down there in the Waterbury on just a grass court. And in time then, there was a concrete pitch put in and a little wall all the way around it for seating.
And of course handball played a big part.
Handball was, again, very, very popular, and there used to be great tournaments down there in the alleys, especially if it was Sunday morning.
Yeah.
And card games, of course.
And the pitch and toss.
Pitch and toss, yeah.
And then up here, of course, in this hall back in the 60s, I'd say, you had the snooker here, which very few clubs or parishes had such an amenity as that.
Well, again, it was, goes back to Father McGrath. The boys' club was formed in about 1949 down in St. Bridget's Hall.
Yeah.
And when this building then became vacant, when the boys' school was opened in 1951 or so, Father McGrath got the use of this building and to use it as a boys' club.
Yeah.
And snooker was introduced, which of course the CYMS was the headquarters in Kilkenny of.
And you remember that place in Puddin Lane, Kitty Hughes, was it, or something?
Yeah, is
that her name?
The Morgue. It was
the Morgue.
The Morgue.
Exactly.
The house, a place of ill repute.
Yeah.
But I don't know, many snooker tables were in there. Then you had the CY, and ourselves here.
St. Patrick's
St. Patrick's,
old school.
Yeah, and there was great competitions in the city alone.
Yeah.
Between the 4 or 5 clubs, and then imagine we used to travel out to Callan. There was a CYMS in Callan, and I think there was one in Johnstown. There was a diocesan snooker tournament. The CYMS used to organise it, but we were allowed into it. So it was a great experience bringing the lads from the butts out to play snooker out in Callan. Dangerous, or half we were going around Callan looking for lads, come on, we're ready to go home.
And there was a bit of hurling done before.
A lot of hurling done, 7-a-side tournaments in the Waterberg. And in the famed Bennis Bridge, when they're in their heyday back in the 50s.
Yeah, they used to come to the Fair Green.
Yeah, they specialised in 7-a-side. They changed their name when they be playing the 7-a-side from Bennis Bridge. They used to call themselves the Ring. Do you know that?
Oh,
yes, the Ring.
Actually,
excuse me. The Ring Dazzlers, they call themselves.
Yeah.
They won all the tournaments.
The parish also provided one of the greatest handballers of all time in the late Michael Duxey.
Oh, Duxey, yeah.
He was the king, wasn't he?
Really, and still is.
And he was a St. Joseph's Road man, I think.
That's, yeah.
Well,
in fact, people, sorry John, but I'm going to remark that people used to come up along St. Joseph's Road just to have a look at where Duxey lived and all the trophies up in the window. Just to read it. It's like a sports shop.
Yeah.
Take your pick.
Well, I think he had 18 all senior singers.
Oh, he would, yeah.
You know. So, Paddy, I want to thank you very much for calling down to us today.
Not at all, John, you're welcome.
I enjoyed that chat. And that's it from us here in St. Canice's Hall, and thank you.
You all know me, sure. I'm Mickey Ramsbottom, born, bred and raised above in number 3 Conley Street, in the butts there. So, we all know one another.
We do, yeah.
You're first, Betty, to get you over.
Patty,
Betty, you go on
come
first.
down this way.
Go on, Betty.
Hi, I'm Patty Power.
I'm Josephine Woods.
And I'm Bessie Brennan.
And we're the Bingo Girls.
My name is Martina, and this is my lifelong friend, Mags Barry. I lived in Connolly Street, and Mags lived in Lord Edward Street.
I'm Shahid. I lived in the butts all my life, and going back, and wonderful memories of the people in the butts, and old and young, different generations, and a lot, and I can remember a vast and wonderful community in the Butstown through all the years.
And first I met my husband in Tom Phelan's pub in Parliament Street. I didn't know who he was because, as I said, we weren't allowed to go from street to street. You were in your own street and that was it. But I paddled with Martina's sister Kay, and we used to dress up, and the Donald's Prams used to go up to Bridie Sweeney's. She was our nanny, we used to say.
Patty, how long are you coming to the bingo in St. Canice's Hall?
As long as I can remember. All the older crowd here sitting at the snooker tables, that's where we played, were covered. And I don't ever remember winning big money. Big
Not even
money
the
that
jackpot,
time would
Patty.
be £50, which would be a lot of money now.
Christopher Phelan, I used to live in 17 Butts Green. I lived there all my life, played on the streets, got up to mischief, play garden, music,
Massive big
sports.
family.
It was 11 of us in it.
One more than ourselves.
It was good. Times were good. Times were hard, but times were good.
There was also an uncle left, Uncle Jimmy. Now, he was in a number 11, and Mammy took care of him, of course, when she married Daddy. My father was the youngest of the Barry family, and I'm the eldest of my family. So we were there anyway, and you know yourself from wanting to do another, the family to stay home.
Yeah.
So they got a transfer up to number 8, Lord Edward Street, and from there they got number 45, and 57 Conley Street was where Martina is, or was, and there were no phones or anything them times, and my mother used to take out a stone out of the wall in the backyard, and herself and Kitty would be talking away for an hour.
Chatting away.
That was their phone.
That was their phone, Max.
And sure, yourself, Martina, and Gerald were doing
We were the
from
same in the back room and the bedroom. That was our phone.
Hello, I'm Tom Phelan, and with me here is Father Jim Murphy, present parish priest in St. Canice's. But you've been here before, Jim, I believe, and I know.
I was. I came here in August 1975 when I came back, having been rambling on the continent for 3 years, and they all said I had a great time. And they
were right.
Well, no, they put me through the ringer. I had to learn French, and I had to do a degree in French and all this stuff, and then came back to do catechetics. And I was here for August 75.
Went to live in Connolly Street beside Mrs. Ramsbottom, and she'd say to me on a Tuesday night, Patty, don't forget to come back up for your bowl of soup. Bingo was over, went in for me soup, Sid, Mary, myself, sit talking for an hour, go in then and go into bed, and Sean would be saying, oh yeah, your belly is full now.
Most of the community came in here when all the houses were built back in the late 30s. And there were people came from every parish. And then they start building in Kennysville and Vickers Place.
I used to bring Katrina, the daughter, with me, and she just loved going. But then there were a lot of smoke.
Yes.
Yeah, there was.
People were
There
smoking
was.
then before they put the ban on.
Yeah.
So she said she wouldn't go anymore.
Well, I didn't smoke myself when I'd be playing.
No.
you?
Well, there was a,
Well, yeah,
when
I
I
used to smoke
started.
too. Remember Annie Fannin?
Yeah.
I used to go outside with her.
Oh,
I lived in Lord Edward Street from the time I was brought out of the maternity ward in St. Luke's Hospital, came back to 11 Lord Edward Street. That was the Barry's home. The grandmother, the grandfather, he died in the First World War, but she reared 9 of them on her own.
I was with a very distinguished man called Father Jerry Joyce, with whom I got on a bomb.
And who would your boss have been?
I can't say the same for my boss. He was a very big man called Father Mark Kerwin. And the last thing he wanted was a young lad coming back from the continent with new ideas and all that stuff. So we didn't last too long, a year and a half, and I was sent back to Kieran's, to live in Kieran's and to do the schools visits, going around to the schools.
Years ago, we had a few brats around the area.
That's right, I was one of
and
them.
they broke, no, before you were, they broke all the windows in this place here. And the late Dean Kavanagh, he died in 1959. He came up and they put crosses on each of the windows. This is a true story. The next day after the crosses went up, the windows went in. And I always remember me standing in the church, he says, they wouldn't even, they still break the windows even when God on it.
Do you remember Con with Sunday night? He'd call a number.
Yeah, all the wrong numbers.
All the wrong numbers. I'll take it. He'd say,
Take it anyway, and I'll call it again.
yes.
Onions was a great thing that time, and no matter when you pass up streets around dinner hour, you could smell the steak, piece of steak and stuff being fresh. You'd always smell the onions. And the wonder then was the wonderful women gathered together. This is what I'll always remember. There were no television, there were loads of women got together outside somebody's house and they'd have an old seat in the gallery. You just hear the laughing coming up Dean Street.
Oh, you couldn't take her anywhere, could you? No.
The committee on Tuesday night, there was an awful lot of men on it. There was about 5 or 6 when I started.
Yes.
And they were lovely to come into, and you get our books and we'd be saying, I'm sweating, and then the number wouldn't come out and we'd say, fuck me anyway. The cursing was absolutely desperate in the bingo hall.
Nessie always sticks out in my mind.
Why, doll, what were you up to, girl?
It was Sunday morning. We come up from Mass after being Mass with my dad, and I'd come up into the shop, and 9 or 10 Nessie would be there, but if she wasn't, she was out like a lion. That's Doll Reid. What's she in for today? And then she'd say, oh, it's Sunday. And you know what she's in for? The dirty paper, and that one only after coming from Mass. Yeah,
The dirty paper.
yeah, in for the dirty
What
paper.
paper was it?
News of the World.
Oh, sugar.
Now, you mentioned Father Joyce there, Father Jerry Joyce. He was a remarkable man, wasn't he?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He was extraordinary.
Yeah.
When you think of Jerry Joyce, we were sharing the same house up in the Granges Road across from your house.
Where the curates lived.
Correct.
Away from the parish priest.
Correct. And sharing the house also was Father Paul Fitzgerald, who was in...
An uncle of Henry Shefflin.
Correct. And he was director of the social services. So he was sharing the house with us, and we had great camaraderie.
Pesci, remember the pango that was on?
The pango of Wednesday night. Poor Mara, the Lord mercy.
Oh, God.
We had the little boards, all the numbers, the top of the bottles, the lid of the corks.
Yeah.
We'd call the numbers and you'd have to cover them.
Yeah,
and you might only win €1 to cost you euro for 5 games, and you might get back €1.
Yeah.
I had my name down for a house, and I couldn't understand I didn't get one when my sister-in-law Marion and Anthony got one, and Kay and Sean.
That's right.
That's Kay Hickey.
Yeah.
Kay Ralph. So after I went anyway to town hall and kicked up a hell of a balloon for a house. And I remember it was Al McGuinness. He said, look, I told you have one.
Yeah.
And he says, I don't believe you until I have the keys in my hand. Oh dear, he said, and gave me the key to number 4. And I loved it in number 4.
Yeah.
I remember one time you met me on the street, and I couldn't believe what you handed me. You handed me this big brass bell. We still have it. I still have it on our bike. Where did you work that time? I mean, I know you were in the Corporation.
I was in the Corporation there for about 2 or 3 years.
Before that.
Did you ever pay me for that bell?
No, hold on.
You could fix up me now, I could do it a few more. Yeah, that was a fine bell, that was.
Yeah.
He still got it?
Yep, Kay has it on her bicycle.
Oh.
She have, yeah.
And we've after her for the few bobs.
We were buying our first washing machine, and Nessie had been talking about it previous that week, and she said she was getting on the front loader. So she said to me, come down, she said, and we'll see how this works. Well, we're down, we're like 2 fools like this sitting on the chairs and the machine gun. We just watching the wash going around. There was a lady used to go in there, Pat was her name, and God bless her, her hands were all deformed from arthritis.
Was that the lady in Lord Edward Street?
Pat.
Yes, yeah,
and
I
she'd
remember.
always be waiting for me, and she'd throw over her purse to me.
Ah,
To
bless.
pay Nettie. And if I wasn't there, she would give it to Nettie.
Go away to
Yeah,
take
take
it out.
what money.
I remember that
she
lady,
owed.
all right, yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
I can still think of things that he was involved in. He brought people over from Wales, I think, Leslie Button, and they did courses to help young people to develop and be able to present themselves and speak properly, like Jim is doing now, and all this. And he spent a lot of time doing that. Sure, he was a great man, absolutely.
do you remember Mrs. Quigley in Conley Street?
I do, Dolly. She was 2 doors down from us.
Right.
She was larger than life in every sense of the word. She was the kindest lady I ever came across in the butts, the most decent.
She was.
And we used to go up and down to her. We all took it in turns in the family, 7, 10 children in our family. So whoever's the eldest used to go up and do the messages for her. And then it was handed down from Dino to me. So I'd go up and do the messages for her. And God forgive me for saying this now, and the family will probably come after me for this, but when she sent me down to the butcher's, I used to always cut off maybe a penny or tuppence off of the amount of meat she wanted. And I'd keep it. Yeah, I'd keep it for myself. I went to confession though, by the way, anyway. So we used to, Daddy was a great fisherman, so he'd catch the fish, and she had loads of cats,
obviously,
and
yeah,
dogs.
yeah.
And Brownie and Tinker, and I can't remember the third dog, but anyway, so we used to top and tail the fish and gut them and bring up all that and make up a mash for the cats.
Yeah.
And we used to kill each other at home because whoever brought it up would get the threepence. And there was one day anyway, Mammy said, go out there now and there's a now newspaper out there, wrap it up, because she was trying to stop us from fighting over who was going to bring it up.
Exactly.
And wrap it up there and throw it over. So we went out anyway and wrapped up all the guts and the heads and the tails and everything into the newspaper. And as you fired Kay there, down basketball arm. I hadn't it back then, but anyway, it did develop. And I fired it across the 2 gardens, and the next thing, in mid-air, the whole thing splattered open.
Mrs. Clears.
Down into Clears. So I needn't tell you, the cats scattered because their dinner was all over the place.
Now, before yourself and Father Jerry, there was a great man here. He came back from the missions, Father McGrath, Michael McGrath.
Michael McGrath.
A Kilkenny City man.
Correct. Lived up in
the Railway Hotel, which is now, we're going to say Itchy-Coo, Kilford Arms.
That's right, get it
yes,
right. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Because one fella, one day we were in Clara after a wedding, and I said, you're not going to take our photo? And he said, I was there with the altar servers, and he said, I will, Jim, if you give me back the $5 that I gave you a loan of years ago to go to Itchy-Coo.
Facilities down there are a testament to him. He was responsible for most of what was down there and what is down there today. I know it has changed slightly with the realignment of the roads and all of that, but he was responsible for most of that. And he even pulled the shirt sleeves up and took a shovel in his hand and helped out.
He spent a few years, I don't know how many, in Australia, wasn't he?
That's right.
Australia. Yeah. Was he in the Air Force, a chaplain?
I think so, yes.
But he spent a few years in Australia. At that time, they had so many priests that they just farmed them out. And some fellas would be sent to the States, others to Australia, and others to England, the English mission. And in some of the cases, the priests stayed where they were. Some of them stayed in the States and some in England. Father McGrath came back, and you can imagine now a man who had been involved in with the naval forces and in the full prime of his youth. Sure, he was mad to get stuck into whatever was going on.
I said I was about 9 years of age when I worked at King's in Irishtown. Did you remember King's of Irishtown?
King's.
They had a pub down there. And I worked there for years to wash out bottles and stuff like after school and by candlelight.
Yeah.
There was no electricity out in the shed. After that then I worked for Moores, Harnessy Moores. I worked there for a while there. Yeah. It's the first time I found out there was more than one type of Christian. That's where I always remember my mother, my mother was poor, she hadn't much to pay, we had bad old clothes. But one day there was a lovely parcel left for me in the house, and it was left in the house, it was left in the shop, in Moore's shop. Now I worked in a clothes shop, but this parcel was left me by a lady called Mrs. Miller. She was the sexton's wife down in Canister's Cathedral.
Aye.
And she left a lovely parcel of clothes for me.
I had 4 girls, 2 adopted, and I had 2, I was told I'd never carry one.
That's right.
I had a miscarriage, and then I had 2 girls after that. So then I got into, there was a prefab, we were going to start play school. We were hoping to start a play school, and ideas came up about a bus, because in Dublin they had a bus renovated into one. So then someone heard that there was an empty prefab up in St Mary's Cathedral, and so I wrote to Bishop Birch, and he gave me the prefab.
Yeah.
So we were thrilled. We started out there. That's how the FRC is down there today. Different clubs, different creches, after schools, you name it.
All the old lads were completely different then. He used to stand in the shop, the old man, and he'd let off gas. But he used to think it was great to let off when all the women were in shop, and the old people thought different than us. And then I went to Manny's the chemist. Best job I ever had for sweets. The whole staff, they never sold the sweet in Manny's.
You ate them all?
No, I didn't eat them all. Everybody worked in it ate the sweets.
La 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 la. The one and only Romeo.
Go on, tell us a bit about Romeo.
Okay, I remember him so well, Doll, I'm not joking. He used to come into Mammy's with the blocks with Owl Raw, you know what I mean? Mammy always bought from him. But at Christmas, Annie and Mam said, sure, we'll bring over now, we'll all go to see Santa. You know, take it. Here and behold, straight away, come over here, he said, and sit up on me knee, he said, you know. And didn't he say young Ralph? And it made me so suspicious, you know. So I was sitting there chatting away, and I looked up, and I came out and I said to Mammy, that's the block man, I said. That's Romeo, I said, that comes sort. It can't be, she said. I'm telling you, Mammy, it is. I'll always remember that.
What age were you?
I was only about 6 at the time, but I remembered him so well. And then when he came 3 weeks after Christmas with the load again, and I said to him, did you do Santa over in John? Go where that? He said, how could I do Santa, like, you know what I mean? But to this day, I'll always remember it was him.
I remember they were all out in the butts green there, skipping and playing hopscotch, and my mother and Mrs. Hogg and Birdie Kelly and Lizzie Summers all standing around talking, you know what I mean? And the father was due in for dinner, and the mother came out and she at the front door with a knife, and she sharpening the knife, you know. And she shouted
on the pat?
Yeah. And then the step.
On step.
And she shouting to John, go up to Nesher Rees and get the ham for your father's dinner.
Nesher Rees?
Yeah, Nesher at the shop here. And John turns around and says, Ma, is it a half a slice or a quarter slice? and all the neighbours listened. God, when I get you in.
Myself and Bibi were friends from the time we were very small, and she lived up just near you, Dolly, up in Pierce Street. And we were very young at the time, but we snuck into Billy Conway's below. You know, you go up Abbey Street,
that's right,
and you turn in, it's O'Riordan's now. You turn into the left, and you went in, and he had a snug there. So he couldn't see, you made yourself real tall, so he couldn't see you when he'd be opening the snug, and you put on a real mature voice. So 2 bottles of cider there and whatever. But anyway, we were coming home one night, and we're after getting a bottle each, like, you know, and we're coming home, and we decided that it's Christmas Eve, we'll go to midnight mass.
Oh yeah.
And before, as we were leaving, I said to Bibi, look, I want to get my father something, and I got him 2 large bottles of ale, and he put them into a brown bag for me. So we're coming up along Dean Street anyway, and we said, come on, we'll go into midnight mass. In we went anyway, but we stayed at the end of the church.
Yeah.
And we're down on the left-hand side in the church below where the candles, you know, you light the candles. And Father, I'll never forget when Father Duggan was saying mass. And it was, you know, midnight mass used to be packed.
Oh, packed, sure, to be all.
And it came to the quietest part of the mass. And myself and Bibi, sure, we'd be giggling, like, you know, a bit. But anyway, the quietest part of the mass, we're down at the end of the church. And the next thing, bang, splat.
Oh, okay.
Oh, sweet Mother Divine. The arse fell out of the brown bag. One of the large bottles down onto the ground in the church after where the crib was. That's where the crib was, down there at the back of the church. Well, the next thing, everybody turned round.
Could imagine.
Father Duggan stopped. he looked down, he came running down the aisle in the church. Myself and Bibi scarpered out of the church and I shouted back, it was Bibi.
Poor Bibi.
So Bibi got blamed.
Okay.
He would have seen a need, for instance, for young people to have recreation, and which was very important, and there were no facilities. So he worked on getting those facilities and put his own sweat and blood into it in the water barrack. Yeah, to his testimony.
We used to torment the life out of the priest above in the priest's garden.
Yeah.
The day we put her up on the tree, and we're all up there and we pulled back the tree and she went flying. She ended up in another tree, you know.
When I was young, very young, there's very few houses had electricity in the butts. A lot of people don't know that. They had electricity came there.
I remember the tilly lamp show.
My grandmother, till the day she died, even though they got electricity and she still used dial lamp when she was in her, and she'd never push on the electricity.
Well, guys, what about all our big families so we had in the butts? We had the Clowrys.
Dewberrys.
With the Reeds.
The Lahys.
Yeah.
Who else had?
Do you know, if you think about little Bobby Dwyer, he was a great character, a great snooker player, wasn't he? Yeah. And then there's
Davy Whalen.
Davy Guntz and Ganey. There was three in a minute.
And they drive in the car and they sit up on the orange box.
Sid Casey was the one now because myself and my brother Sid used to go with him, and he was a very decent character. He used to give myself and Siddy sixpence, but he'd give us a half-crown for the mother. And we're two assen carts, and he used to get hauled out slab timber over on the Comer Road in remember the old mill at the Comer Road, and used to bring it down to James and Murray's in the water barrack, and that mill had cut up, and we put it all into Hessian sacks up onto the carts, and then head off with the donkeys and carts up around Emmett Street and up around the butts here. But God, he was a great man, Sid. Absolutely gorgeous character.
Breda Phelan, and she had a big family.
That's right, the Raw and Breda. They had a fine big family.
Actually, they were great characters. It's hard to think of them all. I mean, Joe Burke was a great old character.
Oh, God, poor old
Rich,
Joe.
And
Paddy.
Paddy.
Poor old Paddy worked for the Lucre. Should have farm. Imagine there was a farm on the Butts Green.
There were lots of good
John the Lucre.
Yeah.
Cliffords.
The Rose.
Who else? Pratts.
Yeah.
There were great women characters in it. Remember Brady Young and all, and everybody in the amateur theatre, with Brady being the theatre, the user, especially around Christmas, they'd always bring up her name, and then there'd be a big G up.
The ladies there living at the Car Road in Conley Street.
That's right.
There, and then you had Murderlow, the Cody's. He worked in the sheep's den, remember?
That's right, yeah.
He was a contrary man.
Contrary is in the dictionary, his photograph of his
I tell you, you got a great chase of him.
Oh, absolutely.
Why didn't you get caught?
One of the great characters was Grandad Massey. Remember, really well dressed, the little gold watch in the suit, the three-piece, sitting in the water barrack and telling us the stories. A white moustache on him. Yeah. Do you remember poor old Tom Byrne?
I do.
He used to come down the road with a big, as my mother used to call it, a shoulder bow, and the bushman saw hanging on the end of it. Hello, Mrs. Ramsbottom, and he stayed walking. Every day he came down with
he used to have the ass in the scullery.
Had he?
He had the ass in the house.
In the house?
In the house, yeah.
God, I didn't know that now.
But I asked a very old man who lived in the Butts one time, and I was asking him about the pig in the kitchen. We often heard about the Irish, the pig in the kitchen. But he says, he says, when I was a young people, we had a pig in the kitchen. There was no place else to push it.
John Dullercher were the first to have a television, Gussie. And we used to all go into Gussie's and sit and watch
Muffin the Mule.
We used to watch,
the Western. Paladin, Have Good Will Travel.
But there's Gussie named Dino. Dino was the dinosaur in Fred Flintstone. He managed to pull the yoke, he'd lift up a big rock like that and drop it down. And Dino was all macho about it. So Gussie named him.
Do you remember going down to the pump down here where the number of buckets getting the water?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
And if you fell, you were in trouble. If you chipped your number bucket, you were in trouble.
You're right, trouble out here.
Is the O'Neill Centre still going?
Yes, especially it opened in 1982. It was the boys' school, And Monsignor Fitzgerald, who was here in the parish, he went to the education board and they gave it to him. And Mary O'Neill ran a play school in social services and brought in special needs. And she came down and sorted it all out. And then it opened for special needs children. And Lucy was in charge. And I became great friends with Lucy. I was 30 years working up there. I was caretaker. And Betty, you remember coming over to do the cleaning.
We used to have
Yes, and Patty, in the bingo of a Tuesday night, we used to come in, and the committee would give us three nights a year to run fundraising for the O'Neill Centre, and there was a lot of fundraising in Kilkenny, and they did tremendous work for the special needs. I couldn't imagine how many children has passed through their doors, and the work today is still going on in the memory of Mary O'Neill, and she was the beginner of helping special needs children in Kilkenny through a play school in social services, and it directly came down to the Butts, and the Butts people were always very supportive of the O'Neill Centre, and every time we went looking for money we were never refused, and that's how the O'Neill Centre is going very, very strong today.
How many shops, Cha, was in the Butts?
I count about 9.
I counted 7.
Go
ahead, Cha.
Did you remember the shop in your house?
No.
There was a shop in your house.
Dino taught me that.
Yeah, Billy Keogh ran it there.
Serious?
Billy Keogh.
No, it was Butler's, Mickey Boyce's, Molly Lannon's, Nessie Reed's, John DeLucre's, Billy Burns. They said Billy Burns.
Don't forget
what was the
Mrs.
little
Lennon.
shop, Christy, that was at the back of Billy Burns?
Parsons, Molly Parsons. She used to be in front of the mothers at one time. They went on fire.
Yeah.
And then all them houses were knocked down, so she got the house on the back of the creamery there, in front of the creamery.
The pulpit was there at the time in the church. You remember that?
Yes.
And there was also a grandfather clock in the sanctuary on the left-hand side as you look up.
I've seen photos of it, and I've asked questions all over the place. Where did the clock go? You know, they did a renovation there about 40 years ago.
That's right.
And destroyed the church.
Yeah.
The beautiful backdrop and the Last Supper, and it was. The first time I saw it, I was shocked.
Right.
And the grandfather clock, nobody knows where it walked to.
The grandfather just took it and legged
walked somewhere.
But the clock would strike on the hour and a half hour.
Oh, that was very useful.
Yes. But confraternity started at 7:30, and at that time the basketball pitch was going strong, and there would be matches there most nights, and especially on Tuesday nights, matches would start around 8 o'clock probably. And you could hear the shouting in the church from the basketball court.
Yeah.
And some of the men were saying, we could be down there now watching the match and this kind of thing, and your man is up there in the pulpit rambling on. Okay. So a deputation of the senior members was picked out and sent to meet him and
to meet Father Michael
trash
McGrath.
it out. Yeah.
Good.
So they went and met him, and the agreement was, lads, the clock on the altar in the sanctuary, when that strikes 8, whatever I'm saying at the time, I will stop stone dead and leave the pulpit. And he never broke that promise. That was Father McGrath.
Great.
A remarkable man in the parish. But we've had some remarkable priests, Jim, even up to the present.
Oh, thank you. Well, he was a very interesting character, because I can remember him. I was only a young padre, sure. I can remember him, especially at a priest conference one day, and it was pretty hot and heavy, whatever was being discussed. And Bishop Birch was up at the table, and you'd want to have your I's dotted and your T's crossed when you'd be taking on Peter Birch. He'd be a serious character. And Michael McGrath, anyway, put up his hand, and he stood up and he said what he had to say. And you could see that it wasn't going down too well with Bishop Birch. And when he was finished, he explained himself, and he didn't hurry it up. And Bishop Birch looked at him and he said, so that's your opinion. And he sat down. But he had expressed himself. I admired him, that he was courageous, yeah.
Do you remember Hayden's?
No.
That was down in Ardeville Street too.
So many
Maggie
shops?
Hayden.
So many
I reckoned about 9.
Yeah, 7 is all I could count,
Yeah, about 9.
It's enough.
Well, when you think of it.
Ratchers was down there.
Joan Rashford, she was the first on the bus crossing.
Yeah.
She-
Right,
Molly Lannon's was lovely.
had the
shop,
slides.
wasn't it?
Do you remember them, Martina? The
Ah.
big gold penny.
I seen a few of them all around, man.
Yeah,
all
well,
right.
that's what we'd bring down a bucket of waffle to Granny John. We used to call her Granny John in 50 went now. 45 was us, 46 was Curtains, 47 was Mrs. Clifford, 48 was Knox's, 49 was McCabe's,
And
Lord
then-
to mercy on them, and 50 was
Granny
John, where we're bridey daughter days now.
That's right.
And we used to go down there and we'd get a big penny and we'd either spend it in Molly Lennon's shop across the road, number 10 I think it was, or 11, and then we had Mickey Nails opposite our house.
That's right.
And a treat to us was myself and Liam used to we'd save up the 2 pennies and a halfpenny for a small tin of beans, and myself and Liam would make toast at the fire and put the beans on it.
nice.
Yes.
For two
And
and
it
a
was
half
lovely.
pence.
For 2.5 pence. Well, it was 2.5 pence then.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
we had great times, yeah.
I remember meeting him on a Sunday afternoon when my first time here. I used to go for a walk up Thornback, and he would probably have been visiting his sister in Talbotsinch,
yeah.
which is Philamaria now,
Yeah.
and be out for a walk. And so I remember meeting him on the walk, and he was a lovely man to talk to. He was a grand character. He was encouraging me.
But it's very straight. I served under him now, and
Very.
there was only one way to serve, and that was the right way. And he
Okay.
wouldn't be slow in telling you afterwards when you went inside, you didn't do this right, you didn't do that right, get it right the next time. But he was straight, but he was honest and fair. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And how was he on punctuality, can you remember?
Oh, very strict.
Was he?
Yes, yeah.
For ye?
Yes, for us.
Because I remember I wasn't too hot on it myself when I was here the first time. And it was due to the boys I was sharing the house with, because they wouldn't let me go to bed in the night. We'd be sitting around the fire and we'd be having a chat, Father Fitzgerald and Father Joyce. And so it was fascinating. I was delighted. And then I couldn't get up in the morning to go into the Loretto for 7:30
yes.
Mass. And the nuns and the little beady eyes. And
Waiting for you.
They'd have been in bed since 8 o'clock the evening before.
I wonder.
Looking at me, the sleep falling out of my eyes. So I apologised one morning, a couple of mornings, when I came down here for the 9 o'clock Mass. And this lady said to me, don't be, for God's sake, don't be upsetting yourself about a couple of minutes late. Sure. Look at Father McGrath, he was never in time in his life, and didn't he get on all right? All I said, ma'am, that's very reassuring.
Pyjamas is like were in short supply. No one really knew back then what pyjamas was. But my mother, God love her, wanted the salt of the earth, the same as your mother and your mother. They were the salt of the earth. They have these lads on the television now with all the stuff in front of them, they're cool Latin. Our mothers went out in the backyard and pulled it and brought it in and made lovely food. But Sid anyway, she gave him this jumper. And you see, for some reason that time we didn't sleep side by side. We slept
like sardines.
head to toe.
Yeah.
So Sidney was sleeping with Dino, and because Dino now another great character, and Dino was there anyway. Dino during the night anyway felt something. There was a little jumper he had on him. He felt something. And he started pulling it. And he kept pulling it and pulling it and pulling it. And he said, Sid, are you all right? I am, I'm grand, said Sid. The thing was rattling. Now, how he was getting around him, I don't know. But anyway, in the morning, Sid ended up with a jumper here, and Dino had a ball of wool.
Now, if you look back down through the generations, a lot of them have stayed in the butts.
Oh,
it's lovely
God, yeah.
to see.
It's lovely to see him
I think
still
there's
there.
a third generation now of some of the families that are in the
There
butts.
is, Kay. There is, yeah.
My uncle wrote a song one time. I don't remember that. Sorry I didn't record it years ago. I can only remember a couple of... My pants is creased and my coat is pressed and the butts bar I adore.
Wow.
The pub that's there near Thomas's Square, where the women judge the men by the colour of their clothes. And they don't wear powder, lipstick or powder. Yeah, that's something like that.
I'm thinking about Jeffrey there, Martina. He was from 12 St. Joseph's Road, Jeffrey Latty, and he was the best husband and boyfriend, you name it. He was the love of my life. And in 1995, God took him from me. He had motor neuron disease, and there's not many that time had motor neuron.
No, it
Now it
hasn't
seems
heard
to be getting more common. But yeah, he was a great man, good husband, good father. We had 4 girls, as I told you, and had 1 miscarriage and 2 adopted and 2 I had of me own.
Yourself, exactly.
When we reared up in great progressive times, they're always telling us we're a progressive people nowadays. But that time, you got your bread delivered, your milk delivered, the vegetable milk came to the door. If you were stuck for a pants, Johnny jump up for 2 shillings a week. They bring your pants.
Or you got into the brothers.
Now you have to travel everywhere to get all.
Or you got into the brothers' pants.
Yeah.
We have good memories and bad memories, you know what I mean? But we were a great community up there, you know, absolutely. We had nothing, but we all got on. We shared everything, didn't we?
Yeah.
Huh?
Remember the lockdown started? I came out here Patrick's Day and I looked up the street and it was so depressing, it was unreal. So I said, I must do something for the people. So I brought my gear out and I started singing Noreen Bawn. Next thing you can see everyone, all the gardens, people sitting out and they're loving it, you know. And it was the first time in a long time I see everyone in the butts out, having to enjoy themselves. So I decided to keep it going for about a year anyway. And it was lovely to see the people out having their tea and having a sing-song and dancing in their gardens. And as I said, it's not like that. Years ago, it was like that all the time. So it was great to see it back and hopefully it'll continue.
Hello there, my name is Kenneth Kelly. I was born down in Conley Street, lived most of my life up in Joseph Road, and I've been involved in basketball since then. And the first guy I ever played basketball for was this fella, Phil Brennan. So I've been involved since and still am. So Phil might like to introduce you to what basketball was like before my time.
Yeah, it all started up really in 1952 when the Waterbury Court, or pitches we called them times, was resurfaced, and that was all down to the vision of probably the great Father McGrath, and his chief lieutenant would have been Paddy Ryan. Paddy Ryan,
a great man,
was probably the best of them all. Even in the early 50s, there was always basketball there. There was junior teams, there was senior teams, there was juveniles. It was a hive of activity, the Waterbury, maybe 3 nights a week competition. But probably like all the sports, everyone wants to talk about the senior teams.
That's true, yeah.
So,
but when I was young, we spent our summers down there.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And you, if you didn't get down in time, you didn't get on the team. You had to wait your turn. Like it was all day long. Like, you know, basketball was. I think, I don't know what it was, but Butts people were natural basketballers. I don't know why, but we just seemed to be, like, you know.
Yeah, I started up juvenile teams, and I had one of my first under 14 teams featured Kenneth Kelly, Paul Keeley, Ollie Harold and Billy Dunphy.
Brendan Tyrrell is another one.
Brendan, yeah. Met Brendan a few times. If you want to reminisce about that yourself there, Kenneth,
they were
coming on board.
Yeah, they were great times. Like for us young fellas, we just lived basketball. The underage scene didn't last sort of too long after that. Basketball went into a bit of a lull.
Yeah.
And it went kind of, like we were talking about the Butts people from here up to now, like there wasn't as many playing sort of after that. Like for the first year or two it was grand, and then we moved indoors, and basketball became, we say, expensive maybe, because we had to pay for halls and stuff like that, and
it was a different ball game then anyway once you went indoors.
Totally different, and a number of people just didn't follow through, like.
That's true, yeah.
And it died off. Well, not died off totally, but calmed a lot, like, you know. From where we've been to where we are now, it's a complete difference. Like, you know, the club structure kind of changed. It went out of action, and shortly after that, then the Stars were formed, which is a club that incorporated all the parishes around Kilkenny. And so there's only one underage club in Kilkenny at the moment, and they're competing in the South East League, which takes in Portlaoise, Waterford, Tipperary, Wexford, all those. So that's kind of where it is now. There's no local basketball as such. As regards Butts players, I'm sure there's some underage. There's camps going all the time now. There's a professional living in Kilkenny now. His name is Puff Summers. He's played at the top level. He's played in Australia. He's played here and all over the place. And he goes coaching around. And he's actually living in the Butts at the moment. But him and the Stars are what's looking like the future now. It's a completely changed atmosphere to what we started off with Phil and the locals playing basketball. Now it's the whole of Kilkenny as one team. And that's the way we're going, and hopefully it's getting stronger. Basketball is actually nationally is starting to grow again, and Kilkenny is no different.
Say that growing up here up in the Butts, that we were absolutely privileged because we had all the amenities in the water barracks. We didn't have to go anywhere. We were the best served community in Kilkenny as regards sports. And I suppose with all the ladies' teams there was a lot of rivalry back then. But Joan, can we go back and talk a little bit about when you started?
I think I started, well, it was in probably the 66, 67. And I always remember that's the first tournament we won. So back to St. Anne's again.
Okay.
And there there now is all Butts girls.
And can you
except
just...
for and our coach was Seamus Reid from the Butts as well.
Butts, yeah.
There's Frances Kelly from the Butts. Marion O'Neill was the only outsider,
right?
But she wasn't one of the best players.
Yeah,
and then
I don't remember.
There was myself. she was mostly sitting on the sideline. Then there was myself, and then there was my sister Mary, Florrie Houlihan, Margaret O'Neill, and Seamus Reid, and we were all from the Butts between Lord Edward Street, Conley Street, and McDonagh Street.
And that was your very first tournament. What year was that?
First. It was in 1967.
Right.
67. So we were playing since 1966, but we only started to win something then.
So you were together a year before you actually...
Yeah, we were tipping around for a year. We were playing in the Waterberg. As you know, you had to play when the sun was shining because it was always raining.
Always raining.
Always raining. You'd have good support.
On
the Waterberg was always fairly full. Like we had good supporters coming down.
Yeah. Martina, when did you start? You were the big baby at the...
Yeah, I started about 1972 when I came along.
72, yeah.
Yeah. I was 8, 9. And like that, like your own story, Joan, down the Water Barracks, she always knew where I was. She'd come to the top of Clooney's Hill. Come on, girl, it's dinner time or it's tea time. But that's where I went, like, you know.
Yeah. And then to see the Waterberg being taken from us, that was the biggest disappointment to see it happening. Like, you know.
when just going to that little story there was when talking about they went down with the diggers and everything. And I remember some of the young Cliffords and they all down playing around where they were digging up. And the best thing that ever happened down there when they were removing that basketball pitch was they burst the pipe and all work had to stop. But we lived across here on the Butts Green, and I remember going down, sitting in the bucket and telling them that they had to put in another basketball pitch.
Yeah.
And then some of the basketball players came on board then.
That's right, yeah.
And they brought up a plan. I still have it at home, actually.
Yeah.
They brought up a plan to say that they couldn't. There was no way they could put a basketball pitch down there. And I said, this way.
Yeah.
They could put it this way.
Yeah.
They couldn't even tell us at the time what the diameters were. But eventually, anyway, and then if you remember the tournament, we all got back together again.
Yeah,
all the teams. We all got back together. The teams you played with then?
I played with the Simpsons. I played with Avengers. Canis's, of course, because you coached us, Kay, that time. We used to play above in Loretto there every Tuesday and Thursday night. And that was all mainly, like, you know what I mean? Joan Cantwell, Trace Kelly, Monica Murray. Monica Murray. Great girls, And
it went
tall girls.
Did you win anything? Did you win a tournament?
We did. Now, when I played with Trace Kelly, the Simpsons, we won the league and we were beaten by a point in the championship.
Remember we used to play the round. What was that called?
Oh, yeah, you'd go all around.
You go all
take
around.
the shots
yeah,
all
and
around.
Take the shots.
And then move in.
Yeah, we used to go around and do that because that was great for practicing.
Yeah.
And no matter how many times we went down, there's always, no.
Yeah.
And Bibi was...
She just was dead on though, wasn't she?
That was it. Bibi was on the sideline and there was no sign of her coming on. And I think Bibi's parents, Mrs. Lackey, was down the Waterbergs that day. But somebody quietly started, we want Bibi, we want Bibi. But anyway, the coach eventually put Bibi in. But as she was passing to go onto the court, he said, we'll have none of those. We'll have none of those...
magic shots.
Them old hook shots. We'll have none of them in the game. So Bibi came on, took no notice.
Lobbed one.
The team, I can't remember who we were playing, they were on the attack. We won the ball under the net and we went straight down, gave it to Bibi. Bibi comes down on the right hand side, bang, buries it. And the crowd went wild.
I could imagine.
And Phil Brennan buried his head.
My name is Michael Reid. I was secretary at the club for 20 years or more. My name is Richard Maher. I'm on the committee for about 12 years.
My name is Clinton Maher. I was just a member here from an early age.
It restarted in the 70s, the early 70s. I'm here 30 years or more.
Me, I suppose, it's been 20, 30 years, I suppose, anyway, from an early age, yeah.
We ran a lot of tournaments here in the 70s. The People Cup, the Joe Foley Cup.
Joe Foley Cup, yeah.
We had a minister here one time, he played there on that table.
Which minister?
Elbert. Liam Elbert. Back in the 70s again. Believe it or not, this was a turf shed at the time. Seen the likes of Clinton, Adrian and Jim Kirby when I think it was an under 12 or 13 tournament. The 12 Foley Cup.
And the Foley Cup, we were the youngest to win the Foley Cup, I think.
We're doing a more thing.
Long ago, I heard you saying it on the radio one day. You said you walked through Kilkenny.
Oh, yeah.
But you run through the boats. But there's another one. When the Tullaroan lads were going home long ago, they just take off their shoes, walking up what we call Goose Hill, because they were afraid of the boats lads. Why? It was Joe, we're going to talk about hurling. It was because of hurling. The Tullaroan lads made out that the boats lads were jealous.
Oh.
So I'm just checking, did you leave on your shoes or were you afraid to come in?
No.
Joe, we go back to, you were down in Dean Street. I remember you in Dean Street in the house.
That's
in Dean
right,
Street.
Jimmy, yeah.
So
that's
you're
right.
on the borders.
Yeah, I was there for about 10 years. My father and mother were there. Father moved in from Three Castles and big into the hurling, game of cards on the CY and working in the sawmill.
Yes.
So we were all used to come out of school in the evening and we go working in the mill. And Sundays then was a big day down in the bus, the hurling. And Father, I think, along with a few others, they organised the seven-a-side.
Yes.
And Jimmy, the crowds that were there of a Sunday morning, it was unbelievable. You'd want to be there to see it.
Yes. The modern hurling now that you see, and the way you played it, what do you think yourself?
Hard to get used to it, Jimmy. You know, I like the. We were brought up on the goalkeeper, Ollie Welch's and Noel Gaines, and the drive out that Mick Moore when he was playing with my own club. He'd drive out that ball as far as you could. You're attacking from start to finish. Now it's kind of possession hurling. I'm not saying that is Kilkenny's way now, but the likes of Waterford, I was over in the park yesterday and I didn't see a Waterford forward inside the Kilkenny half back line yesterday. So they've all gone back to the pitch, holding onto the ball and shooting from distance from middle of the field back out, which cuts out goal mouth action. You know, we were brought up on the likes of Ray Cummins, Tony Doran, Joe McKenna, Kieran Purcell, Pat Delaney, God rest Pat Delaney. They were Christy Heffernan, he'd go up and he'd catch a ball. The excitement in the square when those men were hurling, they'd catch a ball and stick a ball in the net. That's nearly gone out of hurling now. Even the present Limerick team, they're a great team, I'm not taking anything from them, but they'll score 30 points. But the public, the hurling man wants to see action in the square. They want to see a couple of goals.
We're joined here now by Anthony Green, one of the great characters in the butts, a great handballer, and we'll come down to Anthony's career in a moment. But we were talking to you earlier, Joe, and we said the way you carried the bags of coal on your back and went up then to Croke Park and the way you were able to hurl. Well, this man, he'd be working abroad in the mill.
I was the same, carrying bags, sure, yeah.
And then we'd go down the water barrack and we'd be on the wall and we watched this fella with the big back on him and the big arms from hard work above in the mill in Welch's, wasn't it, Anthony?
Oh, but here's a slave driving, sure.
He'd be down to your vest and you'd start off at Friday after work. And I don't know what was on it back then, 10 bob a man or something like that.
It would be 10 bob, it would be less than that.
But anyway, you would come along, Nancy, I remember well, you were a slow starter, but you'd keep going and you were building up momentum all night. And you'd lose the first game or two, but double the quits. You might be playing two lads. Remember that, Joe?
Yeah, well, but I think he turned the first game to build up the money. That's
and it would go on and go on and go on for hours.
That's right, I played Thomas Slifford and Christy Whalen, yeah, and I'd be giving them 10 or 15 up as well.
That's it, yeah. But anyway, you'd be there all night and you'd eventually win. The double the quits always worked in your favour. But then remember, out in Thomas Inch even, you'd be playing the two downies, isn't that right?
Oh, jeez, I got waffle rattles with them, yeah.
Two men that were up to all-iron standards. And you were out there I think it was Saturday was your day there. But
you were supposed to a Saturday, be waiting for me, yeah.
Yeah.
I took about £70 off them one day and I sent, they went down to rob Con's purse or jug he had, whatever he had anyway, down they was anyway, and they comes back up and I was playing so well, they were baiting the ball off the roof and everything and maintaining it, no matter what they done, no matter what, I still bet them. Well, they called me all the names under the sun when they came over the alley. They were two hardy little lads.
Yeah, but you made champions out, didn't you?
I did make champions, yeah. Eugene, yeah. John is in Dublin now, is he?
Sure, didn't he win many All-Irelands with Duxie afterwards?
He won 7 or 8,
yes,
didn't he? Or
with the doubles. And a fabulous right-hand player. He knew the corner, how to play the right hand. Yeah. But anyway, go back to Anthony. You remember the left hand, Joe?
Yeah, he was a brilliant player. As a young lad now, I remember Anthony playing well, and the strength of the man, and a huge heart. No give up. It didn't matter what score it was. If he was 5, 6, 8, or 7 down, that didn't matter. He kept playing from start to finish, no end to him. Absolutely. And the work again, like I say, the hard work stood to him all his life. I would say that now as a young lad looking in at him, and he had the strength, he had the staying power, and he got that from playing handball for 4 or 5 nights a week. And working as well. Yeah. So it stood to him all his life. A great player.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great player.
And there were great old times in the Waterbury, you know what I mean? There were great old characters.
It was in the 40s, the Waterbury. There was 2 alleys broke in the Waterbury, 2 alleys broke in every parish. The bishop, I think, was behind on the corporation. And what it did for the people of Kilkenny, and particularly for the people of the Butts, Anthony, the pastimes we had down there.
Oh, great.
All day, every day. Just be fabulous there. You know, every young lad, you'd hear him hopping a ball, coming down the street. And do you remember that? Early in the summer mornings, how you'd hear his hop pop.
There'd always be someone in the alley.
But lads made their way down to the Waterbury. But the likes of me, I had to wait until Mr. Green and all them great handballers were gone off to the pictures or downtown to Station Talents. And then we got in when the big guns were gone.
Money was hard to come by then, I tell you. There was no one working. Sure, in the 70s and 80s was no employment.
The bad recession in the 80s. A lot of young lads around the town from all parishes went off.
There was no mobile phones, and the only time you see a mobile phone was on Star Trek.
I think, well, there are 8 individual All-Ireland champions came out of the Butts.
And it was hard to win an All-Ireland handball title. I mean, you're there in your corn to come out with Kilkenny to win a Leinster final, even an All-Ireland semi-final. And to get over the line, he knows more about it than I do, to get over the line in an All-Ireland final.
You'd have to beat a lot of lads.
Great men they were. And no lazy lads in an All-Ireland.
There was great players in Wexford and Goggins and Joe Howland and all them lads were powerful players, you know what I mean? They had an open alley like us and they were as good as us, you know what I mean?
Duxie has 38 All-Ireland medals. John Joe Gilmartin, I think, was a 20 in the 20s. We thought that record had never been passed. And along comes this fella. And the year he died, Joe, playing handball.
But there was 40-20 in on that.
Came in.
Well, Gilmartin had it, there was no 40-20, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and he had world titles as well, didn't he?
Oh, he had, yeah.
40-20s.
Oh, well, Duxie had his world titles.
Yeah, he had the world titles on top of all that. I never saw any sportsman now in my time, in any sport, that put more into their game than Duxie did.
Yes.
He was
got very few
You played a lot with him, Joe.
I did. I played a good bit with him, boys. I mean, he was incredible. His enthusiasm for the game was
Oh, he loved the game.
Yeah. He'd play 6 nights a week, he would. And he kept himself, he was all conscious about his fitness and his weight. And
yes.
He was terrible leech, you know what I mean?
He wanted to beat the next lad he was playing. That's all he was.
It was always the next game.
It was the next one, not what he got beforehand.
Yeah.
You know, and he had a record out in Talbazines. I don't think he was beaten in it.
Well, the last match
he was ever beaten in it.
The last match he played was against Owen Kennedy.
That's right, and
in the Nationals.
He beat Kennedy that day.
And he was All-Ireland champion, I believe, at the time.
But he turned around afterwards and he put his hands up in the air and he says, Lord God Almighty, he says, wouldn't beat me. Now, he never said Talbot's inch.
Yeah.
The inch.
The inch, no.
And the following year, Joe, I'd say he'd have won the All-Ireland doubles.
He was on.
Because the year before he was beaten in the final and he was suffering with a calf injury and he wasn't able to get in. But the year after, he said to me, the day he bet Kennedy, he said, we'll win the All-Ireland this year. And he was flying. The injury was cured. And unfortunately, we all know what happens.
Yeah.
But his record will never be passed. As Anthony said, he had 40
won't see it. If it is ever beaten, we won't see it. It'll last a long, long time.
Hello, everybody. I'm Michael Clifford. Born and bred in the famous Butts parish, 10 Connolly Street. Just a bit of info on soccer and how I got into it. First of all, I probably would have been 4 or 5, and it was different times back then. And one of our biggest games probably would have been playing gate to gate on the street against different opponents. And then sure, we probably would have come down the water barracks where the old basketball pitch used to be at the end of Clooney's Hill, and I used to follow my brothers, they're older brothers, and I used to follow my brothers, and they'd be telling you to go back and don't get involved, and then a team would be short one person, then you'd stick in a corner and then you'd get involved. And from then on I took to soccer. I really got involved in it, and at the age of 10, the 86 World Cup, the famous Diego Maradona, that's who turned my head fully to football. I was obsessed the way he played. So much I went out, and I was a natural right footer, but I went out and I practiced with my left foot because he was a left footer. Then we had a great few coaches, should I say, famous Con Downey, who I'd say everyone in the parish would have played for. All of us jumping into his car, 10 and 11 people getting into the one car, and off we went. And Con done great things. We had Shamey Phelan would have coached us, Jeff Hayes, Lord rest him, and Shem Conley, another man, Lord rest him. That have a few. There was plenty more, but that's the way it was. But at that age, the Street League, the Bishop Burst Street League, used to be on down the water barracks, and for me that's what I wanted to win. I know there was McCalmont Cup and leagues and club games, but the Street League was bigger than any of them. I mean, you could go out to a McCalmont Cup game and you could have 200 people, but yet you come down to the water barracks on a Street League final day and there was, all the way across the bank, 1,000 people. And I remember growing up, I always wanted to win the Street League. That was my big dream, winning the Street League. And St. Canice's, the Butts, should I say, they had teams, but they were good teams, but they never really got over the line. There was the famous Assumption, and there was the Nor Bar, and the Village, and Friary Street, all them teams, and Pat Carroll's, they all went on, and a few of them won it. And the Butts always came short, the semi-final, quarter-finals or whatever, and I just wanted once to win it anyway. But thank God, a few years later, there was a group of lads, Parks, Falsey and the brother David came together, and they got a bunch of people in. I was 17 at the time, and it was great. There was great community spirit, and we stuck together, and we went on and we won it the first time. And after that, we kind of won it every second year or two in a row, and sure, the famous John Brennan, I won one with him as well. So we ended up winning a good few, but that spirit, I think that's why we were so hard to beat down here. It was the community spirit, and I always said in any sport you play, if you play like a family, play like brothers, they're your brothers on the pitch, you mightn't get on with them all, but once you cross the line, play like brothers, and we did it. That for me was a big challenge, and I'm glad we got it.
We have some international players that came from the Butts. Now we're holding two absolutely fabulous caps there. I hope you can see them. Just tell us about these, Mick, because they belong to your two daughters.
Yeah, okay. This one is Jenny's. Jenny would have played 15s, 16s, 17s, sorry, 16s, 17s and 19s, Kay, with Ireland. And this one is Amy's then, and she would have played schools, 15 schools, the Bob Doherty tournament over in Spain. They actually won that over in Spain.
In Spain, and they travelled.
Travelled to Spain, yes.
They were playing a lot. There was a lot of countries playing in that tournament.
Yeah, in Amy went to Spain, and that was the Bob Doherty tournament. There was Gibraltar, England, Scotland, and Wales, and it was played over a long weekend, Kay, and they actually ended up winning it. I think they bet Wales in the final.
And that underage, what was that?
That was 15 schools, Kay.
15 schools.
Yeah.
And this one then, this is absolutely beautiful. 2013 is on that, under Women's Football Association of Ireland, under 16.
16s, that was Jenny. Jenny went to Russia and Romania. They would have won the first stage in Russia, so they qualified to go on to Romania then to play in the latter stages of it. But unfortunately, they didn't come through. But yeah, that's where Jenny was.
You must have been fierce proud.
Oh, sure, look,
yeah?
No one talking to better yourself, like you've been there and done it, and proud, really, really proud, to be honest. But yeah, and Tara, the other daughter, she would actually went and had tries now. She didn't make it, but she was a late starter in sport.
Yeah.
But there was another girl from the parish as well, was Olivia Nolan, which would have been Rachel Clifford's daughter.
Right.
She played 15 schools, I think, now. I'm not too
Yeah.
sure, but I think she played 15 schools with Ireland as well.
So in actual fact, we have 4 female internationals from a small little area like the Butts.
Yeah, unbelievable.
How big is that? How big a deal is that? This year, rather, the year of the Irish team qualifying for the World Cup,
Yeah.
the women, for the very first time in our history. And I didn't bring my Irish jersey with me because it's gone up to a museum. All my memorabilia is going to be on display in a museum, and all the Irish memorabilia up in Dundalk, and it's going to be on display for a couple of months. But this is the one that, when we went to the very first time, 1972, we went to Jay's.
Right.
We were playing in a cup match in Dublin, and at that time you'd be only playing in the middle of a housing estate. Should the parents be running down the pitch after you? Don't you leave my Brady alone, and all this, you know. Here, they're giving every player senior player that played at a senior level from 1973 up to now, we're getting a replica of our team are getting a replica of our jerseys that we played in.
Lovely.
And with our names on it, the original, you know, the Ramsbottom name is going on the back of it. And we're also getting a special 50th anniversary, because it's 50 years since we played the first match. And we're getting a special 50th anniversary cap.
Lovely.
So all I'll say, Mick, is that 2 from the Butts here, and I'm telling you, great
No,
people
okay.
came from the Butts, and the great sports people. On the Butts!
Fiona Quigley. I was born in the Butts, reared in the Butts, still live in the Butts. I'm from a large family of artisans and artists. My grandfather Joe and Sean Quigley used to paint the vans in the brewery and the sign writers. Sean and Stephen are sign writers and artisans. I have 3 absolutely fantastic uncles, Tom, Stephen and Sean, that were sign writers and painters in their own right. And Sean and Stephen, they've exhibited down here on the Mayor's Walk, just like myself and my sister are doing at the moment. And this is both our works. And we also have cousins that are artists and signwriters as well. We have Katrina and Stephanie. Stephanie has exhibited a fair amount. Katrina's a bit on the shy side. She hasn't done it yet. I have a brother Owen who is famous for his gold leaf signwriting in Canada. There's my brother Aidan, who's a signwriter. There's Patrick Quigley. There's Sean Quigley. There's Shane and Colin, and we're all into the arts, painting, and basically it's all self-taught. So my influences are, a lot of it is from the Butts, because we've so much greenery and the Brega around us. From our fishing to our little bits of trout come down Smiddix Avenue, Kenny's Well, we have Clooney's Hill up at the top. All the birds that you will see when you head out up, as you're heading out the Tullaroan Road, you know, there's Goose Lane, all these lovely little finches. Grania painted them. That's my sister who I exhibit here is with Grania. She painted them. And then the fairies, and they're the stories that we were told when we're sitting down the water barracks at the side of the river wading our feet. We were so inundated with fairy stories, it's unbelievable. And that's the mother's influence there.
No, I just drawn this of the Callan little sculpture, the Trinity. And I want to make a plate. Now these ones here, they're from the Rote tomb in St. Candace's Cathedral. It's a bishop, St. Candace. And they use it as a logo.
Hello, my name is Tony Lawler. I'm the eldest son of Michael Lawler, commonly known as Mock, who fancied himself as the entertainer around the local community. Mother, do you remember all the times when he'd go to the Friary Hall? He was the dame, and how many pantomimes did he actually?
About 7 or 8 from year to year. It used to come up. It was Father Rock. Eventually first asked him to put a little thing together for the Friary Hall, and he did.
Yeah.
But he wanted everything exact. He wanted a fancy dress on him. He wanted to be the dame.
Yeah.
And I used to dread it because he'd want boobs, he'd want the hair done, he'd want the lips done, and the whole shebang.
Of course, that was always him. He always wanted to be, I won't say the centre of attention, but he always kind of wanted to stand out. I remember years ago when we might be at a wedding or something with him, and when yourself and himself get out to dance, he was always the one to throw out the feet and twirl and fancied himself kind of as a Fred Astaire and all that sort of thing. He had a cigar one time, remember, it was about a foot long and about 6 inches thick.
Yeah.
It's like the trunk of an elephant.
And he'd put on this big hat on him and he'd puff the fag. He thought he was JR.
Didn't you do that Broadway? Didn't you go to America one year?
Yes, we did, yes.
Didn't you get up on the stage?
Yeah, our late son Declan had a connection with the lady that was the top lady of the show. And Declan had asked her to know if Dad is going to the show tonight, would you let him walk round and see what's at the back of the... And he did.
Of course, that was the stage that all these old idols sang on.
Yes.
Cagney and all them lads, Jimmy Stewart and all them boys sang on all that stage, and that was his...
So then the lady said to him, would you like to see the stage, Michael? And that made... that. I didn't think he'd come home after that.
Yeah.
He went out and he started singing I'm a Yankee Doodle Dandy and all the songs that he had. And there's a lady up in the balcony. I think she used to clean the place though. And she sat down and she said, oh sure man, you can make him pick. Oh, that drove him nuts. He was only delighted.
Oh yeah, that'd be him.
And she shouted down, can you sing Galway Bay? Oh God, girl, he says, I don't know that.
we were up in Doherty's one day, and the saloon bar entertainment was about to kick off. And sure, Joe was only after walking in the door, God rest him, and sure, Daddy was there. And Daddy was only after having the heart bypass himself.
Yes.
And I brought him up for a drink just 4 or 5 weeks or maybe 6 weeks after the operation. And he said to Joe, will you sing one, Joe? Oh, God, Mark, give us a minute, says he. Went like no drink or whatever the case may be. And so within 15 minutes, it was Joe sang one, my father sang one, Joe sang one, my father sang one. If you had to tell him, come on, it's time to go home, he'd look at you.
Yes, and that was funny, because she drone came into the bar one night and she said, oh, Michael, she said, there's nothing moving here. She says, we'll have a bit of a sing-song. So Tommy Murphy comes out after about a half an hour with a brush. He says, would you fuck home on that? Well, I remember one night, I was going out with him for a while, but my friend had gone away to America. And I went with another friend down to the dance. And he comes in along with Joe Doyle and Terry Cullen. And he had 2 kittens he was after taking out of the Carmel Hotel over in John Street under his coat. And he said, I got a new friend for you. Now, I was kind of cool with him.
Yeah.
I got a new friend, he said, for you. I said, what is it? He takes out this little kitten. Now, he says, you'll have company, he says. Whenever I don't turn up, you can have your little kitten, says he, to keep you company.
Where or how did he ever come across the name Mock?
He came down to Kilkenny after his mother and father had passed away. His mother was a Kilkenny woman, and the father died very suddenly with pneumonia. And the mother had no way of keeping him in Dublin, so she came down to her mother here in Kilkenny, Nanny Campion. And he started school in CBS.
Yeah.
And Mr. McAvoy, there was 4 Michael Lawlers in the class, and when he was calling them up, he couldn't understand which one he was calling. So he called the first lad Michael Lawler, and he says to him, come here you. He says, I'm going to call you a Vok, which meant son.
Right.
But when he got out, the lads were saying Mock. They started M-O-C-K instead of Vok, which was in Irish. And that's how he got the name.
I don't know, Mother, did I ever tell you the story, but it was actually the time of his death in 2005 when we came home. I went up to a very, very, very good friend to Daddy at the time, was Dennis Starkey above in Priory Street. That's where we used to have the few drinks. And we went in there, and I went up to young Dennis, sadly passed too, God rest him, another gentleman. But and I said it to him, God, Dennis, so there'd be a load of people over around the house around the weekend now, so would be a chance, say you give me I could get a couple of bottles off you and things. Oh God, Tony says, whatever you want, says he, just get whatever you want. And I went in the following night, or not the following night, he was buried of a Monday, so I went in that Tuesday evening to fix up with him for the drink that I was after getting off me, and he says that you don't owe me anything, Dennis says.
And where did the money go?
Oh.
Who owned the money that you were going to pay
that was my, you owed that to me before I went. Don't be looking for money now, you're always the same looking for money, relax now. So,
I'd love to know where you got the money to pay for all the drink.
Well, I'll tell you where I didn't get it, out of your purse. There's nothing in your purse, only dust.
It's going along nicely now. Hi there, Jim Glennon is my name. I was born and raised in this house here in the Butts. This is my latest painting here. I have several paintings, but I don't get much time to exhibit them there lately, but I'm hoping to expand on that a bit. Just, it's a hobby really, you know, it's not a money making scheme or anything, it's just a bit of fun. But I like to, when I get a bit of time, I like to just get the old brush going, like the small brush. But I'm a painter and decorator by trade. I'm painting since 1976, which is quite a long time. My first inspiration really to paint came when I was working in a place in 1983, and I saw some paintings, and I thought to myself, I could nearly have a go at that, like it didn't look too complicated. So, well, here I am today anyway, without going into too much detail on that. And I course, I always liked to draw when I was a child. I came something like I don't know exactly, but highly recommended in the Texaco art competition. I must have been only about 12 at the time, or 14, and what age I was, but I was very young anyway. But I got a high recommendation. Didn't win it, but it was encouraging, like, so I'm still at it today anyway, and I'm enjoying it. So these are just a few music icons that I did in watercolours. Just something different, and I spatter them then with different colours, just to give them a different flavour, you know. So I'll just put them down here now to show you. Mick Jagger, Mr. Lennon, not Glennon, Kurt Cobain, is Jimi Hendrix, Jim Morrison, one of my favourites, and Bob Marley. And they got it now, Robbie. Neil Young. Yeah, I like that one. And David Bowie. Yeah. And then the boss himself, Bruce Springsteen.
Hi, my name is Jimmy Meany. I live in the Butts. I came to the Butts about 54 years ago, and I married Pauline Clifford, who was originally from the Butts, and I've lived in the Butts since. I had a bad accident, motorcycle accident, so I had nearly 40 something years ago. As a result, I lost my arm, and I just had to learn to carry on and adapt. I was right-handed, unfortunately, and I just learned to get on with things. I've shown sculpture, so I've done 7 arts weeks, and I got into sculpture, so I did as a therapy after a brain tumour that I had. And I done it as a therapy, and I had a bit of a shine for it, so I trained under Saturio Alonso, who is a fairly well-known sculptor in Kilkenny. And I've shown a lot of pieces around Kilkenny, and a lot of my pieces have gone abroad. And I've done pieces for various organisations in Kilkenny. There was a piece done for me, commissioned for the President of Ireland, Mary McAleese, and that was presented to her at the Father McGrath Centre a number of years ago. So basically that is it, but I've lived in the Butts. It is a great community. When I started the sculpture, it was all wood sculpture that I done, and I worked specifically in bog oak and different types of wood, but mostly bog oak. I found that it was a very good medium, and it was very easy hard to carve, but all the shapes would be in it. It's only a matter of getting them out. And that's a piece of bog oak, and it's mounted on pine bottom. And the piece on the wall, it is Scotch pine background and a piece of Dutch elm. There's a number of these pieces are actually around the Butts in various halls and around in Kilkenny, and there's some even in Kilkenny Town Hall. So basically that is the medium that I worked in, and it worked very well for me.
Hello, my name is Joe Murray. I was born in number 2 Connolly Street, the 7th of 9 children to Sean and Myra. We moved to Dean Kavanagh Place before I was a year old. I went to school in the CBS primary school, where I first got involved in theatre, I suppose. I remember doing a few plays as a youngster. And then in secondary school, I remember doing a very good play called The Royal Hunt of the Sun, and really enjoyed that. But I didn't do anything then after that until I was about 21. I had started working in Smithwick's Brewery. I met Brendan Corcoran, who was a member of New Theatre Group. He was married to another Butts woman, Bid Hogan, and there was a play coming up that spring, and he asked would I like to read. So I read for a part, I got the part. And that was a play called Rookery Nook, Ben Travers' farce. And after that then I was hooked, and I did a lot of plays with the New Theatre Group, and actually went on then to do pantos. We did the pantos in the Friary Hall. The plays were in St. Kieran's College. And my brother Andy was also involved in show business. You probably know him. He sang with the Fifth Degree and the Black Aces. And he was also involved in a few of the pantos that we did. He's played the leads in the pantos. And a couple of other butts people who were involved in Tops of the Town, in Smithwick's Brewery, Tops of the Town, Philomena Quigley, and her brother Sean, who was a very talented painter. He painted the backdrops for the scenes for the Tops shows. Then in the 1993, the Watergate Theatre opened, so I got involved at Watergate Productions, and we put on a play or two plays maybe, every year. And that went on for a good while, until Ger Cody, who was manager, retired, and he started up a new company then called Lake Productions. And that's where I am at the moment. I'm involved with Lake Productions. And it all started in number 2 Connolly Street.
Hi, my name is Sophie Harold. I'm from the Butts Green. These are some of my paintings here. I started painting and drawing when I was quite young. It kind of just came naturally to me. I kind of started off with pencils and like just colouring pencils and stuff. And then I went into acrylic and painting, and like occasionally like oil paints. I kind of like bright colours and like bright paintings and stuff, so a lot of my paintings are kind of like that, and mostly like portrait paintings and like paintings of animals and stuff. But yeah, no, this painting here is special to me. I did it for my dad for his 50th birthday as a birthday present. It's of my nanny and granddad Harold. I think it's like a photo booth photo, and yeah, this is done in acrylic paint, mostly like white and black paint. But yeah, so I'm in Waterford at the moment studying visual art, so a lot of this kind of helps me along the way with like art and stuff down there. Yeah, I think after Waterford I'm going to go to do my Masters in teaching and do art teaching. This is the Joker. I did it a few years ago when my dad started to build like their man cave out the back. My brother wanted me to do like a painting for the wall, so I did the Joker. Most of it's done in acrylic. I actually had like a painting underneath it, but I just painted over it and did the Joker on it. But yeah, no, this kind of stuff like would be on my Instagram page. My Instagram is Sophie's Art, and I like a lot of people around the Butts as well have sent me photos, and I do like their family photos and like on my iPad, and I like change them into like a drawing for them, and I print it up and like sell it to them then. But yeah, and then this is Obi here. Obi is a COVID puppy, but he's yeah, no, I love that painting. It really like, it's his personality. Like he's just crazy. But yeah. And then the monkey, I was in Ormond College for fine art, and it was kind of one of our projects where it's like a self-directed project, and I decided to do mine like on animals, kind of like in weird kind of costumes. So yeah, no, this is what I kind of came up with then, and I actually really love it.
Hello, my name is John Brennan. Married Kay Ramsbottom, and we lived in the Butts for 25 years. At the side of the house I had a nice little workshop, and I used to make all various little, what I would call traditional toys. I'm going to show you how I start these little projects. The first thing I do is, like this little fox. I made this little fox when I was about 8 years of age. My dad used to show me how to do it. My dad was Michael Brennan from Walcott Street, and he was a master toy maker. what I would do is I'd cut that out on a template and I'd stick it onto a bit of plywood, similar to what I have done here, and I'd cut all around it. From that I developed into doing things like all the windows in the church are all done in fretwork. Almost everything I make, including the dinosaur here, which has about 30 little parts to it, that's fretwork. It's a dying tradition now. You'd hardly even get a fretwork blades. But I bought this saw back in 2014 in Dublin, and this is the original one that my dad left me. And this one is about it's about 80 to 90 years old. That saw's. So now I'm going to show you how I do a window for a doll's house. So I start here, slip the blade through and mark it. So now I'm going to start cutting. And that's basically it. And that's a little window. That's a little window for a doll's house. This little fire engine, I made a template first. Put the template on a bit of plywood and cut all around it. Basically that's what everything I do. That's a little dog for the doll's cot. That's how I do that as well. A lot of the designs I have for traditional ties go back to the 1930s, and this little train is 1922. You'll see it there. That's 1922. And this one here behind me, I can't move it, is 1920. This is a photograph of a thrashing engine. It's a Burnell, made by Michael Brennan, 144 Welcome Street. It's a quarter scale and it's 200 weight in weight. This was made by my dad back in the 80s, the 70s and 80s. I think it took him about 4 years to build it. These are books that I get all my designs from. This is a hobby, and this was bought in the OK House in High Street. And I'm going to go right in, and you might see where the OK House little sign on it. And that I get all my designs from hobbies, and this one is actually 1935, so you can see they're all traditional ties. The little tractor here, that's a more modern one. That's from the 1950s, and I did that some years ago. And basically that's all.
Hi, my name is Michael Kelly. I'm known in Kilkenny now as Mike Kelly, but I was already Mick Kelly because my father was Mick when I growing up in the Butts. I came to the Butts when I was about 2, I think, and it's become my home ever since, pretty much. I still try to help whatever is going on in the Butts. But what I'm actually going to talk about is how a strange theatre began in the Butts, actually, because you wouldn't think it was a place that it was going to start, but it did. And in the 40s, the local priest, Father McGrath, he started a boys' club here in this room, this hall I'm sitting in. And so it was snooker and all sorts of things. And it was really good for the boys. And it went on, but they were kind of running out of money. And so he thought of an idea and put it as a committee that they might do concerts here. And he suggested that they would name it Don Bosco Players. And so after a man in Turin who was looking after boys, he is Saint now. And so that all happened. So the first one was in 1952. Now, I wasn't at it, I was 7 at the time, but when I was 8, I saw the first one here, and I had, it was brilliant. But on stage were a group of Butts people. And I can't remember all the names, but I certainly remember Busty Kerwick because he was Kevin Barry, and that was the name of the play. And I had never seen anything like this. I went to films and all of that, but I'd never seen anything as strange as this. Butts people on stage doing a play. I didn't even know what a play was. And it stayed with me, because it was like, how did they do that? Did they have to learn lines or what? I didn't know how it all worked. And so later on, of course, it went on into the Stallards Theatre, the old Stallards Theatre, and then and I was in 2 productions with them. And one was for Professor Tim, and I played a part, and that was in the Presentation Convent. And the second one was on Trial. And there was a bit of a ruckus about that because it was a play about a girl who killed her kid out of wedlock. And so, but we put it on, and it was every night in Presentation was full. And then we decided to travel around the country, and nobody wanted it really because it was very controversial at the time. But that was my work with Don Bosco, and only 2 plays in that. But they were a great group, and I was very fond of them. And the mainstays of that was Paul Lanigan and his brother Jack Lanigan. Now, Jack Lanigan directed both the plays I was in. And in On Trial, he asked me, did I have maybe somebody that would do a paper boy? And I had a youth theatre at the time, so I asked a little lad to come in, and he was Brendan Corcoran, and that was his first time on the stage in Kilkenny.
I'm Stephen Murphy. I was born about 200 feet from this spot in Connolly Street, and I was raised in Pearse Street. And I'm the Director of Services of the Father McGrath Centre, and we're very proud to be associated with this project. I think this project is very important. If nothing else ever comes out of it, you have saved and archived a great deal of history. There have been many, many wonderful characters have come through the Butts over the years, and this project, I think you will see, the movie that you have seen has managed to capture some of those and their stories and the families and the influence that they've had in Kilkenny. And I want to thank everyone that was involved in what I regard as one of the more important projects I've ever been involved with. Well done, and congratulations from the Father McGrath Centre at the Neighbourhood Hall, my board and committee, and most importantly from the people of the Butts.